Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Town of Philipstown Conservation March meeting. I apologize for the slight delay we had. First order of business is I'd like to have a motion to approve the minutes of February.
I'll make that motion.
Have a second? And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So done. What do we think is going to be quicker? Yes. Let's go to Kingsley, 50 Old Albany Post Road.
Good evening. Jason Snyder with Beatty & Watson representing the applicants Ian and Forrest Kingsley. This is a referral from the planning board for, they are basically the, well, I'm sure most of you know, but they want to do the, they want to convert the first floor garage to a, to two one-bedroom apartments. They've never used the, so the building is constructed. They got the two-bedroom apartments on the second floor, and they have the empty garage on the ground floor. They want to convert that to two one-bedroom apartments, and since there's wetlands on the property, the planning board wanted you to take a look. So the septic system's in, the well's in. There's a little bit of work to do to expand the septic system a little bit. But basically the plan for this is the same as we had last time, is just to basically put the compost filter sock along the wetland buffer to prevent any, to catch any sedimentation, and also as like a little construction barrier.
Is there a CO on the building now?
Yes, there is. Yeah, because there's people living, there's people living on the second floor.
So you're just enlarging the septic system to
Yeah, it's
accommodate
going,
the apartments?
yep, it's going from 520 gallons per day to 660 gallons per day.
So where is the expansion happening?
The expansion is happening actually towards the road and towards the north property. Because since this was done, the health department reduced the design flow from, actually that doesn't even come into play because it was commercial anyways. Because it's 110 gallons per day, it was 110 gallons per day per bedroom regardless. But it's not getting that much bigger. So we're adding another lateral towards the road, and then we're adding some laterals on the ends of the existing laterals, and there's really no expansion towards the, it's all basically, it's not getting any closer to the wetlands, basically.
So what's the distance from the new lateral that you're adding from the wetland buffer now?
From the wetland buffer, it's probably about, let's see, 80 feet.
But still outside the buffer.
Yeah, it's still outside of the buffer, yeah.
Okay. We have any, this is a simple one, I think. Have any questions or comments?
I'm
Yeah.
good with it.
Okay, so you're before the planning board.
We actually have a public hearing scheduled for the, for Thursday, next Thursday.
Next Thursday, okay. So we'll put together just a short memo
Okay.
that we have no comments. It seems that it's in keeping what was previously done.
All right, thank you.
Okay. So while you were up there, why don't you tell us briefly about, is it Fergus and Chen?
It's
On all,
Rob Fergus and Agnes Chen. They bought the,
Montoya property.
yeah. So this is the former, did you get that? Okay. So this is the former Juan Montoya property. Again, this was referred to your board from the planning board because there's obviously lots of wetlands along the front of the property. Initially, we weren't proposing any disturbance within, at the time of the referral, we weren't proposing any disturbance within the buffer. It was all outside of the buffer. Along with the referral to your board, they also referred it to the fire department. The fire department had concerns with the width of the driveway and also access up to the water itself. So they wanted the driveway widened because it's narrower than 12 feet in some locations.
Where is the property?
It's all the way down, all the way towards Sprout Brook. You know what? It's just south of Lake Celeste.
Yeah, it's about a mile north of the southern end of Old Albany Post Road.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's just south of Lake Celeste. And so they wanted the driveway, the gravel driveway, widened slightly. It's some spots is like 10 feet. And they also wanted a little turnout. They wanted a turnout. They wanted a dry hydrant at the corner of the dam, because that's basically where it's the deepest. And they wanted a little turnout. So we provided the every 500, whatever the fire, I think the fire code or the residential code is like 20-foot width every 500 feet. So that's what we did. So it's about 500 feet, and we did a 20-foot wide gravel, or a 20-foot wide gravel total. So we added another 8 feet. So it's a 12-foot wide driveway with an 8-foot turnout, 50 feet long.
And where is the turnout on the plan?
It's right before the turn up the driveway. So there's like you come down, there's here is I kind of had to add this. It doesn't flow
So
very
it's at
good.
the bottom of the driveway?
Yeah, it's at the bottom of the driveway, right by the lake, and that's just so that's where all the activity is going to happen if there's a fire, because that's where the dry hydrant is. So the dry hydrant's at the corner. The turnout is right at the bend before you go up the driveway towards the house and over the culvert. And so I guess technically that's gonna require a wetland permit if we're widening.
If you're widening,
Yeah.
because I know the property, if you're widening, you're by the stream, you're
Yeah.
putting in a hydrant that's minor, but it requires a wetland. I mean, I think this could probably all be put into one.
Yeah.
Turnaround, I guess, we're a little bit more concerned with because it is a little bit more invasive into,
Yeah, I mean,
what we're
it's not exactly a turnaround. It's more of like a turnout, so
Yeah.
that other vehicles can pass by. And I did detail for the dry hydrant. Other than that, it's just going to be the regular detail for the driveway. It's not much. It's not much. It's the existing gravel driveway is almost there. It's like 10, 11 feet.
yeah, I'm familiar
So-
with it.
I mean, if you want to submit the application, then we can figure out the overall disturbance totals and see how this falls out in terms of a major or minor permit application. And we can see how we want to process it, if that's outside or in front of the board, based on the overall calculations of how much disturbance is within the buffer, or within the wetland itself, or the water, the water body.
Yeah, because my feeling is if it was just a minor amount of widening and the dry hydrant, it would be minor.
Yeah.
I just don't know what the turnaround is going to involve.
Yeah.
I mean, it's already kind of like, I don't, it's already kind of flat and gravelly there. So, I mean, we can look at it when I'll be at the site meeting on Sunday. And we can I'll have the plan and we can take a look at it. What time is the,
The planning board?
no, the, conservation,
Well,
It's just planning board.
oh, it's just the planning board?
Yeah, I mean, anybody that could come, if the weather holds,
Yeah, it's
Okay.
9:30.
9:30. I
9:30.
mean, I'm gonna do my best to be there. It's a matter of whether I get back from the airport in time.
Yeah.
What time?
9:30 on Sunday.
What was do you recall what the referral was in regard to, other than this? I mean, this would just be
The original referral was in regard to predominantly steep slopes.
Yeah, steep
But-
slopes, and just, I think they've been, anything with wetlands on
Yeah.
the property, they've been referring it, so.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I would just come prepared, I mean, start preparing all those details in terms of
Yeah.
square footage of disturbance, so we can, and, you know, it's spelled out in the code, so we can just see what the extent of, where it would fall within the major or minor application, you know?
Is it, there are other thresholds like
Yeah.
that? I thought it was,
Yeah.
okay.
Some of it has to do with, like, you know, hand work, machinery work, all those things, so.
You know, a lot of this is gonna, I told the owners, a lot of this is gonna, just them coming in and sort of doing this work is gonna widen, is gonna widen the driveway just by default
Yeah.
to 12 feet.
Well, then that being said, for us to do our due diligence, then we'd obviously want, you know, some sort of water quality protection along the driveway and all those things while
Yeah, we can do that.
machinery is being brought in. So if we can just formalize that in a rough plan,
Yeah.
that'll help with all those things, because ultimately we want to protect the water quality and the resources there.
Yeah.
So I think it's straightforward. It
Yeah,
sounds like.
I'll add some erosion and sediment control to the,
I mean, that driveway, because I live right by it, is subject, they've had terrible washouts. So every time I look at my driveway being beaten up, which is 4 times as long, I see that and I'm like, oh, I'm very happy. You know, it just gets beaten up, but I think it's fine. You know,
yeah, I'll try to, get those numbers together and quantify it more.
What's being decided next Thursday in regards to this for the planning board? Just if we need to correspond with them before that meeting.
I think we are, I mean, basically, we've just been waiting to have, a site, we had the initial, we've just been waiting to have a site meeting.
So
'Cause
nothing
we-
scheduled, no, like,
Yeah.
public hearing is scheduled, nothing?
No, I mean, hopefully at the next meeting, we can have a public hearing.
so
Schedule.
meaning April.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing that we did was, I know this is like kind of running long, but the other thing that we did was, I thought we might have to go up the hill for the reserve area for the septic. On the plan that you have, I believe, we were showing some disturbance up there, but so since then I've finished the percolation testing, and I can get all the septic can stay right in the lawn. So I don't know if that means anything to you, but
We're outside of the,
we're outside of the buffer and off the
Okay.
steep slopes
okay.
with the septic, with all the sewer lines and septic and all that, so. I don't know if that was ever, something that you were looking at. I mean, I don't know how heavy.
I mean, I don't think so. I mean, it's been a while since I've been in the property, but the whole area going to the west is pretty much, you know, disturbed lawn, landscaped, et cetera.
Yeah, so basically, you know, we got all, so we've kind of condensed all the disturbance to the house site, basically, and where the existing septic system is. So. All right, so I'll be there on Sunday, and
Thank you.
I'll try to have those numbers nailed down.
Great.
Thank you.
So anybody that has the time, go and take a look. Cheryl, if anything changes, please just email us as well as the planning board, because right now the weather doesn't look cooperative, but we'll see. Okay, Automar.
I think you should just submit an application.
Good evening. My name's Mike Mealy. I'm the engineer for the applicant. Just to give you, should I give you a little history or kind of what? The original proposal we referred by the planning board was for a Dunkin' Donuts convenience store with a flex building and potentially some solar farm in the back. We did our walkthrough on Sunday. We came up with some pretty substantial environmental impacts. A lot of earthwork, a lot of stuff that would make it difficult. Went back, went with the project manager and the owner, kind of went over in detail the exact extent of all the work, and he's looking to change. So we kind of knew the solar farm wasn't working. We spoke about that on Sunday, but the amount of work to go to the flex building isn't worth it. So we're abandoning that. So we're just solely keeping it as the convenience store with the Dunkin' Donuts. I have a sketch if you want to see it. It's probably gonna change the layout a little bit, make it a little easier. Try to utilize also the existing curb cut. Make it.
What?
Try to alleviate some of the major issues from the old plan.
Are you still gonna cut in on the north
No,
side?
we're gonna keep the curb cut that's there. Correct.
Oh, okay.
So that you're no longer removing the,
We really, they're almost, if you look at the topo, there's really no earthwork except just for installing the, the tanks and the septic, but there's no major grading.
you still have the gas station.
Correct.
Did you get a size on the tanks?
Roughly, I have them on there.
Yeah, it's three 15,000-gallon tanks.
That's not a hundred,
Three 15,000-gallon tanks, so a total of 45,000
Two gas,
gallons.
one diesel or something like that?
correct.
How does that compare to the, do you know how that compares to the gas station just to the north of there in terms of fuel storage?
I don't. I can try to find out, but I don't know exactly what they have.
I'd be curious about
Yeah,
that.
yeah. I mean, because I think we'd like to keep it down, our recommendation to a minimum that's viable.
Do you have any input on that?
We didn't talk about the size of the tanks.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, that's something that Steve was looking, like to define, because there was a bunch of questions about that. But this part of it for the gas station part, yeah.
I'd be interested, and the board sounds like we'd be interested as well, if you could find, compare what the comparable sizes are at the intersection of Fishkill Road and 9. I don't think we're trying to increase any precedent here, or create a precedent here to keep increasing and increasing sizes.
The other question that begs to be asked, this is a large parcel of land, I think it's roughly 24 acres, and I think the planning board will ask this, so to be in compliance with CEQA, we don't want to fragment. So what might be done in the future with the back end of the property? And I ask that particularly because I'm assuming, and I could be assuming wrong, that the only egress right now comes from Route 9. Is there egress on the property from some other spot?
There is an easement in the back. I don't know if it's viable, but pretty much 9 is how you're going to access for any substantial development.
Because, there is, I'm going to say there's probably close to 20 acres on the other side of Clove Creek. When most of us were at the site visit, while I'm gathering, after speaking to Ron Gaynor, the town engineer, a lot of cleanup was done within the floodplain. It's still a mess, shall I use quote unquote.
Highly compromised.
Yeah, and,
This is beyond what we could see from when we were up on top of the hill.
Yes,
You
yes,
walked in the back,
we
okay.
actually walked back. I mean, we took a lot of photographs. I can't gauge the area exactly, but I'm gonna say it's probably about an acre of the floodplain that's filled with all types of fill, and I'm not sure what's in there. As well,
Vehicles? Sorry to interrupt.
The vehicles are
Vehicles
gone.
are
Yeah,
gone,
as I
okay.
say, like, the town engineer had said to me, you should have seen it beforehand. So, I mean, obviously, in terms of the vehicles and the top-level detritus, they did a good job removing it. But we are concerned and feel that there is some type of mitigation that should be done, because that area floods, you know, periodically, and that's only gonna go into Clove Creek, which is remarkably in very good shape, considering the amount of industry that's around it. The town engineer had also let me know, and Cheryl, we should look into this, both for us and the planning board, that we don't know any specs on the bridge, and I'm not sure the bridge was ever properly permitted.
Okay.
So right now, we have to assume that the bridge could only be used for casual egress. The town engineer had said to me, you know, if that bridge were to be used for anything else, we'd probably have to test it and reverse engineer it.
I remember speaking with him about that at
Right.
one of the workshops.
I'm a
that we had.
little concerned, it's not the only bridge like that, but the newer bridges that have spanned Clove Creek are raised up. So, you know, potentially that could be an area that gets clogged, and that's even more of a reason why we would like to see. I just want to prepare, you know, your client for this, that we're going to recommend that some type of mitigation is done
For cleanup,
with
okay.
all that's there. I know that he didn't do it, but it's part of the property when you buy it.
Understood,
So.
okay.
Mitigation meaning remove the fill, there's
Probably
like
remove
4 foot
the
of
fill,
fill
yeah,
there next
I mean, we
to,
need
right
to-
next to the stream.
I mean, I think you'd start with first making test holes to see what's there, and then, both with an environmental scientist and an engineer, decide on a plan, what's the best way to go.
What kind of fill was in there? Could you tell us, is it
Oh.
just debris or?
It's debris. I mean, I'll show you once we're done. You can look at it on my phone. It's a mixture of everything from bricks to glass to a little metal. I don't think it's very well compacted down.
There's surprises under there too. I mean,
Yeah.
there are huge holes that have something
3
underneath
foot
them.
down.
Yeah.
I mean, we are sensitive that this was not done, to our knowledge, by the present landowner. You know, and what we'd like to do with the planning board is to figure out a way to make this better and not a potential hazard. And I think that we can all work together, including yourself and your client.
Sure.
So,
I did have a question about runoff from the gas station into Clove Creek itself, or what assurances we would have that that doesn't happen. I mean, because as Andy said, Clove Creek is actually in surprisingly good shape, and the idea of a gas station runoff going down that way is something I'd hate to see.
Okay.
yeah, I think that, I mean, what would happen, the order is the planning board will look at the plans, decide if it's permittable, and once it is, there are gonna be things that they're gonna ask for, the town engineer is gonna ask for, it's gonna come back to us, and a lot of it is gonna be having a stormwater pollution prevention plan that makes sure that it does two things. One is, doesn't go into Clove Creek, but also, you know, if you look at the town aquifer map, the entire town is an aquifer. So to make sure that it also, anything unnecessary other than clean water doesn't seep down.
Well, I mean, it'll be a little bit easier to predict without the earth moving that we were talking about originally.
Yeah. And I think also, you know, I don't think we were necessarily against the flex building, but the original plan of, you know, lowering the site 15 or 20 feet, that was.
It's extensive.
Yeah.
Well, not for nothing, if we're asking for mitigation to excavate the back of the site, if your client was already committed to spending that money, you know, maybe that's a discussion that you have with them,
Okay.
you know.
So, any other comments or questions for the time being?
I guess what my concern is the flooding into the gas station area, and then obviously, you know, double sealed tanks and things like that, but what other mitigations can the client propose to help us feel more comfortable about this? Because this is a very sensitive area, as we discussed, so we'd really want to have those discussions about mitigations for this installation of a gas station here.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think double seal tanks probably make sense. I mean, the SWIP plan is gonna be very, very important.
Yeah.
And I think cleaning up what's in the floodplain properly is gonna be a major, major, when I say major, not, maybe in scope of work, but more in that it's, being a very positive environmental change.
Okay.
And that would be great,
Okay.
so.
So the plan is we'll go back to the planning board.
Yes.
Reintroduce the idea,
If you have
we'll-
any questions for us, definitely contact us, particularly myself and Max,
And then we'll
get
go
back to
through
you.
all the engineering with Ron, and then
Yes.
when we get to a point where he's comfortable that they've been met, then we'll come back here.
Yes, yep.
Okay. Okay.
I think it'd be
Okay.
good to identify where the existing septic is, where any tanks are, if at all, that are buried in the ground, so it doesn't pop up later.
Got it. Yep. And then
Thank
for the
you.
notes. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, do we know that there are tanks there, for sure?
I mean, there's no sewer, so there is some sort of a septic there. We spoke on site. We're not exactly sure what it is, so I can reach out to the health department and try to get what's there. Might just be a cesspool. It is old, but
Yeah, we
we'll
were-
identify what's there.
We were guessing it was either a cesspool or a tank with a single tiled line going out.
That was for the house next door.
Right.
But for the gas, for what
Why,
was
is there-
Automar,
We don't know.
yeah.
And I don't know, did that site ever have gas or petrol?
Not that I remember ever, but I haven't lived there all my life.
Yeah, so, I mean, it should be
The
in,
last 45 years.
so, yeah, I mean, and if there's a buried fuel tank for heating, which maybe, but if you can find that out, that
We'll
would
get
be
the
great.
info.
Obviously, when construction begins, you're gonna find that out. And have to remediate.
It's proposed.
Okay,
Okay.
I appreciate you coming in, thank you. I assume vis-à-vis Fishkill aggregates, there's no updates at this point.
There is no update, but it is on this Thursday's agenda, so I'll either go or watch online, but printed out is the report that the town of Fishkill had a consultant look at the plan. And this is what you all have before you, is the problems that the consultant had with Century Aggregates plan, or what was missing from their proposal and what is necessary. And of course, they have Clove Creek going through their property as well, and they call it critical environmental area, and it's an aquifer protection. So, and so do we right now with this one too. So I'll have an update next week, but you all might want to take a quick look at this. Again, I have all the plans. If you want to see them or whatever document you want, I can send to you.
So, I mean, what's different on this for us, which I think we've mentioned before, is while it's not happening within Philipstown, it's happening within Fishkill. The Clove Creek aquifer affects us tremendously, and it's time that we keep an eye on what's happening in surrounding towns, if they might affect us. And this is potentially a very big project.
Well, especially because the Hudson Highlands Reserve too is tapping into the aquifer for their water source.
Yeah,
Which is gonna be a huge draw.
yeah.
Right, so they have a lot of concerns, 13 pages, so it'll be interesting what they say on Thursday. But, just to talk about that, the gas station
Yeah.
going in, that's on the aquifer too. It seems like we're going from one toxic business to another toxic business, so
Yeah.
my thoughts on that.
Okay, thank you, and thank you for taking care of that. Bob, you want to give us an update? Because Bob is our representative on a group that's looking at conservation subdivisions as well as bulk oil facilities.
Sure. So we haven't started the conservation subdivision yet. That's just going to be a general question to the board. But before we do that, so we did look at the code requirements for the large oil tank storage. So something akin to like where a major delivery would come in the Hudson, like in Newburgh or in Peekskill, and then it would be dispensed to trucks from there. So that, we don't see a rationale for any reason to have that in our town, where, obviously, we're in a sensitive area, the whole town is in a sensitive area, so there's really no place to put something like that, certainly not along the Hudson. So that was pretty straightforward. They're gonna, the legal team will look at the coding and beef that up. The next question was, okay, what about additional gas stations, like the one was just proposed here? Again, the entire town is essentially in a sensitive area on an aquifer. So what would we do here? Potentially maybe putting like an overlay district that would require a special permit or something along those lines. So these are all proposed that the town board was considering and obviously would be worked on with the legal team. So this board was just to discuss the options and propose those back to the town board to make a decision as to how they move forward. I'm not sure if they've kind of completed that verdict yet, because the one other area that has a question is, what about the other businesses that are mixed use? So something that's not necessarily going to be like dispensing oil, in large volumes, but then like maybe filling up trucks, so like a home heating oil, so they're not going to necessarily consume it on site, but they're going to then deliver it someplace else in a larger than normal volume. So something like a home heating oil place. Some of the other facilities, when I looked at the DEC website for what's licensed or in the area, so places like, basically Graymore has large tanks, they're on there. The Garrison Institute is on there. There's the golf course is on there. So they're not necessarily like a 250-gallon home oil tank, but there's something larger that maybe is either dispensing for multiple buildings on site and then transported, or but it's for consumption on site. So what would we want to do with that? And I guess kind of the obvious proposal is, well, again, the same thing applies. We're in we're in the basically environmentally sensitive area. The whole town is basically on the aquifer, so we would do an overlay district and then make those, any new developments, something more of akin to a special permit, special consideration. So that's kind of what we want to propose, or ask to this board is, what do we feel about these types of scenarios? That was kind of the recommendation that we put forward and brought to the town board. Town board kind of agrees with that based on the ruling, so that's what's going to be moving forward. And this was the last kind of part of that. And then similarly, the next step would be essentially for the conservation subdivision. What does this board feel are the necessary things that we should be focusing on, what should be considered, and because we're just going to start that at the end of the month. So.
Now, we had put together, it's a couple of years ago now, I think it's MJ and I had let it up, we had put together some notes and suggestions on the conservation.
Okay.
So we'll need to find them and send you those.
Okay. And, when we have a little bit more, and I'll put a little bit more detail, and I'll put an email together and send it around, just
I
the
think
definitions
one
and
of the other
things.
Going back to the fuel tanks, is the thought about what exists now. Let's take Graymore hypothetically. It's pretty much grandfathers. It's there, but I think what a law could probably do for us would be requiring inspections, and if a tank is replaced, what type of safeties would be needed? Should they be using double-wall tanks? Should there be a tank where there is a basin that catches anything that might be spilled? I think you should be thinking about replacements. My suggestion would be as well.
I wonder if there's also a total community capacity that we want to look at a threshold that we can't exceed, because we don't really have a plan B for pulling clean water out of that aquifer if things do fail at a substantial level.
Yeah, that's a fascinating idea.
How would you come up with something like that, though?
I don't know. I don't know, but maybe I'd be willing to put some time into looking at that if you guys needed help.
So total risk volume or something along those lines,
Yeah.
right?
I mean, I'm sure that exists. I mean, there was a lot of analyses done with Hudson Highlands Reserve for impacts that development would have. I mean, most of it was for water withdrawal, but there's gotta be a dilution threshold or something like that.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
So we're just starting that part of it. We haven't really even had a debrief on what the goals would be for that, but obviously this is something that the town board wanted us to look into.
Right, and I'm assuming that home rule applies for bulk or oil facilities, fuel facilities.
I can't comment on that. I believe that's true. I know there was some discussion about it, but I'll leave that to Steve. I just don't remember what the final answer was, so I don't want to
Yeah, it might be
misspeak.
something like soil mining, that if the town opts out, they can opt out, but they can't do it piecemeal. Okay, thank you. Thank you for
Thank you.
participating in that. I see on the agenda Hudson Highland Fjord Trail, but I believe for the time being, we're done with that till the next round comes.
I didn't know if you wanted to discuss your submittal.
I don't, it's,
I think-
basically, we submitted it, both by mail and electronically. I heard back electronically from Nancy Stoner, who is the environmental analyst that was taking care of it, that she received the Conservation Board's comments.
Is there a database or something where one could look at all the comments, including our letter as well? So if somebody from the public wanted to look at it and say, okay, we got all these letters for, all these against, these are the reasons, for kind of informing the public. Do we have anything is there anything like
I
that?
don't know. I mean, obviously, it is available if you were to FOIL it under Freedom of Information.
Right.
It would be sort of nice if one didn't have to do that, and,
Some place where everything could be aggregated in one spot. 'Cause
I
there's
mean, if
a lot of
you-
people involved, Cold
right,
Spring,
if you want to
Nelsonville.
reach out, I'll, just, send me, because I'll forget, send me an email, and I will, it's Nancy Stoner, I'll give you her direct email, and you can contact her.
Okay, great, thank you.
So, I mean, that would be very, very interesting.
I don't think they've done things like that in the past, though. Other public comments have they?
I did-
Well, there's Cold Springs involved, Nelsonville's
I
involved.
mean, this is big, yeah. This is,
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of moving parts in this. It'd be nice if we could kind of get it together so one could, us or just the public can look at it and say, and read what's going on, because there's a lot of hoopla out there, a lot of people, one person says this, and one person says that, and this, that isn't in the plan, but there's a lot of guesswork going on, so it'd be nice that we could see exactly what's going on.
Right. That makes sense. We have any other old business?
I just have a brief stormwater update that we, John and our environmental consultant from Walden, Environmental Engineering met yesterday just to discuss the logistics of the MS4 mapping grant that we received. So hopefully by July, we'll have a contract in place to start executing a lot of that work.
Who's the
And-
grant from?
The DEC.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah. State. I
Still
think
be
it's
there.
yeah. So we were lucky enough to be a recipient of that infrastructure grant program. So we were one of the few communities that got selected.
And what are they proposing to do?
Basically, well, I can distribute it to the board, but it's it's basically citing and locating on an online GIS tool all of the catch basins, pipe connections, culverts within the MS4 boundary, and creating kind of like an online usable database for the highway department and for the public to access as well eventually. And then we'll be able to use that to maintain all of our infrastructure within the MS4 in the future, keep records of maintenance, follow up on any problems, have like an actual inventory of what is located on which road, flow directions, receiving water body classifications, receiving water bodies, like all those things, all that information. It's pretty extensive. And so, yeah, I think this, it's because the area is somewhat small in size, the money that we got will go pretty far to covering a lot of the in-depth detail that the grant proposal was suggesting. So I think we'll be in pretty good shape. So.
And I think you mentioned that, and I think I've gotten newsletters from the DEC, that there is a lot of grant money
Yeah.
still sitting around, so if anybody has any ideas.
Yeah, I was at a conference a few weeks ago, and the interim commissioner for the DEC was speaking, and the Bond Act that was passed during the Cuomo administration is now, you can query the Bond Act and look at all of the available grant money that's available, and so there's a lot for water quality protection. And Andy and I had a meeting earlier today regarding a project in town that received $1 million to a private entity that's trying to remove dams along streams. I believe the village of Cold Spring was awarded $2.5 million this year to restore the dam at for the drinking water up there. So hopefully we'll be able to look at that maybe for the next go around and take advantage of that. But they have an online searchable database that's very easy to use in terms of like keywords and so.
What about something like we talked about it several times in the past, like a water quality, like different stations in the town and like some of the key inputs and outputs to kind of monitor what's both flowing into the town from upstream, like kind of timely, like what we talked about here, as well as like what's leaving our town, in the future.
Well, at least in the MS4, we're gonna be legally bound to do water quality sampling at our outfall locations that are gonna be identified in this mapping program. Expanding that to like Clove Creek and other portions outside of there, we should look at those grant opportunities, because I think we'd be able to take advantage of something like that.
And there's like set requirements of what chemical entities that have to be monitored, or?
Yeah, it's on the MS4 side of things, it's very basic. I think you can even get away with like the kind of metrics you'd look at for like a pool, testing pH, salinity, all those things. But you can scale it up to as much as you want to the nutrients.
I was thinking like some kind of more inline measurements, like stations like that basically didn't require someone to go and do, testing and stuff like that.
Great,
Yeah, something like that, maybe, since there's grants available, maybe, so we can look at something like that.
Yeah, I know that Continental Village has is it Cortland Lake there that they're in the CSLAP program now, so that lake, that water body is recognized by the state, and they have monitoring protocols and a management plan that was just finalized, I think, this week. So their meeting coincided the three communities that kind of oversee that water body met tonight at the same time as us. But their consultant that was producing that document, the management document, he was presenting tonight on that. So I can send that document around to everybody too if you want to take a look at it. But yeah, I think there's a lot of potential if people have the bandwidth to do projects moving forward.
Yeah, because I know I had gotten an email for a tree company that was asking, are there any areas that do we want to look at reforesting?
Yeah.
So, there's money out there. If anybody has ideas, we should then figure out if the town is interested, and then how to put together a grant request. The brief meeting that Max and I had via Zoom, I think the company is Interfluvial. It's an engineering and environmental company. We spoke with an engineer. The grant that was given is to the Walter Hoving home. The dam on Phillips Brook, on top of not functioning, is basically completely what it's holding back is completely filled with material, and it's going to be restoring the channel. And to do so, the culvert under Avery Road, which is town property, will have to also be rebuilt, which I believe is a separate grant. So right now there's money out there, and if we can use it, we should take advantage of it.
And yeah, just to reiterate, all the money's in place for that project to move forward. So they're going to be coming before us, I think, next month for a permit on the private property side of things, and then we own the crossing under Avery Road, so that, you know, we discussed that internally in terms of design on that. So, that's kind of an interesting, exciting project for the town, honestly.
Yeah.
Have you been involved, Max, with the, that bridge on, Sprout Brook at the corner of Winston Lane, that they're starting to do some work on that?
I haven't, no.
That's I believe that's a state project.
Yeah, I think so.
It's a state DOT, which, the bridge does not look like it's in very good shape, but from what I gather, my wife driving by there had spoken to a project manager. That's probably gonna be out for about a year.
Yeah, oh yeah, it was a surprise. When the signs went up.
Today.
What's that?
They told me the end of August today.
Well, hopefully. I feel bad.
Warren
for-
Valley was 2 years.
They did tell me the end of August.
I guess it needs to be done, so,
Yeah. Well, it has to be done, yeah.
yeah.
Getting used to going around.
There were worse detours, like when Central Hudson was working on the poles a couple months ago. This, at least, there's a planned detour.
Well, they were working on the poles as well as that,
Yeah.
yesterday and today, so, the other direction, so it was fun getting out of the town. You couldn't go either way.
Do we have any other new or unfinished business? Is there anybody that has, anybody from the audience that's here that needs to say anything? Okay, I figured I'd ask. Anyway, with that said, I'd like to, oh, one last thing. I did send all of you an email from a STEM coordinator from the Garrison School. They're planning to put on a program, I think it's May 30th, and they were asking us, read the email and her letter, and are we interested in putting something together for her, an interactive workshop? So, anybody have any thoughts after you read it? Let's email back and forth. It would be nice to help them. And with that, do we have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I'll make that motion.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.